again, everyone. It's This Week in Agribusiness. Meteorologist Greg Soulje. We're in for Max Armstrong. Welcome to Farm Progress, Dateline, Drought. Our coverage of the drought of 2012 is brought to you by Genuity Drought Guard Hybrids. Pretty nice weather pattern, I would say, and most of you would testify over the past few days throughout much of the Midwest corn and bean complex, featuring mild to warm days in that dry air. Nice drop-off in temperature readings at night. A little more of a typical late August feel has been dominant in areas of the Great Plains, frequently upper 80 to mid-90 degree readings, and at least some degree a brief prod of that air is expected to work across the Corn Belt and the Great Lakes region over the next couple of 2 or 3 days. Relatively short-lived, some scattered storm clusters which will get going, which may interrupt and get in the way of perhaps some early harvest operations into parts of the plains, may pick up in coverage and intensity now, moving through the Great Lakes of the Midwest over the back half of the weekend, early next week, in perhaps good coverage with amounts into the 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch category. And once again, really too late to matter, with the exception of rejuvenating pasture lands, helping late planted soybeans. We saw some of those rains last week being multi-inch, little if any standing water over the central Corn Belt, and there too, late summer crops, late summer varieties benefiting from that recharge. But again, all weather eyes really now focused for a change. It's been a quiet and benign setup on the tropics. 2 systems appearing there on the satellite photos. One, a fairly uneventful complex of thunderstorm activity coming off the African coast that'll probably head into the central Atlantic and dissipate. The far greater system, which bears watching here over the next several days, matter of fact, probably the next week to 10 days, if not longer, is Isaac, which will likely take a run across the Caribbean chain, head into the Florida Keys, and perhaps by Monday be situated a little bit south, if current projections play out, just south of about maybe Fort Myers. That system will ultimately move into the southeastern states. We'll talk about it this weekend on This Week in Agribusiness, and could become a prolific flooding rainmaker. Anyway, on to the maps and charts here. Here's at least a 3 to 5 day prognosis on where Isaac will track, just a little bit south of Puerto Rico, across the Dominican Republic, Haiti, dead aim at Cuba, and then here we are in this position right along about Monday morning at 8 o'clock. A further track into areas of southwest Georgia and the Carolinas expected for next week. And again, rain amounts will be heavy, if not excessive. Here's the outlook the next 6 to 10 days, taking us up right to and about the Labor Day weekend. Some semblance of some of that tropical moisture is stalling out. This will be drought ending, busting, and flooding over the southeastern states. Meanwhile, temperatures across the heartland still taking on a late summer-like feel. Well, that's a check on weather. On to Bryce Knorr and a look at markets.
Futures prices ended with mostly modest losses today, but those settlements belie a day of up and down trading that seemed to have more to do with Wall Street and Washington than corn, soybeans, and wheat. Profit-taking emerged in the overnight session early, which wasn't unexpected after Tuesday's big gains. But without a lot of new fundamental news to trade today, it became apparent that outside markets were again exerting some influence. The weaker dollar was credited by some for part of Tuesday's advance, so when the risk aversion trade went back on today, buying in the greenback hurt commodities, including grains. Prices softened as losses on Wall Street mounted. Then, at 1 o'clock this afternoon, the mood changed. The Federal Reserve released minutes of its latest meeting in July, which seemed to suggest the central bank was moving ever closer to another round of financial easing. That would send more money into the financial system, cheapening the dollar. And since a lot of those dollars would wind up being invested in stocks and commodities, both ends of the spectrum moved well off their lows, posting inside days lower. November futures ended 4 3/4 lower at 17.27 3/4. December corn gave back 4 cents to 8.34 3/4. Chicago September wheat lost 4 to 8.96 1/2. Kansas City wheat was off 3 to 9.05 1/4. And Minneapolis was down 3 to 9.41 3/4. Demand news is starting to emerge as the end of the week nears. Ethanol production rose this week by 404,000 barrels a day, keeping plants on track to meet USDA's forecast for 2011 crop usage. Export sales out Thursday morning are expected to be somewhat lackluster, 17.5 million bushels of wheat, just 11 million bushels of corn, and 21 million bushels of soybeans. Keep up with the drought situation across the country by visiting www.datelinedrought.com.